Imagine standing in the middle of a lavish beach party in Malibu, lights glittering, waves crashing in the distance, every eye fixed on you. But not because you're the center of attention. No. They're staring because your best friend just humiliated you in front of everyone, ripped you apart like you were nothing just because you're poor. My name is Ethan Carter. And this is the story of the night Lucas Bennett, the guy I trusted like a brother, turned me into a joke in front of his golden world and then tried to destroy me when I dared to fight back. But that wasn't the worst part. The real nightmare started when I realized Lucas wasn't done. He had a plan. A dark, twisted revenge scheme that would shake this town, from the oceanfront mansions to the dust-choked roads of the trailer park where I grew up. Stay with me. Because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about staring into the abyss and clawing my way back out. It's about finding out who I really am. But first, let me take you back to the night everything changed. I was 14 when it all went down. I lived in a beat-up old trailer on the south side of Malibu where the air smelled like salt, exhaust fumes, and garbage from the nearby landfill. Our house had walls so thin you could hear the neighbors arguing through them and a busted-up fan my mom called our DIY AC. My mom, Karen, worked 2 shifts at a convenience store. Her hands were always raw and cracked from cleaning chemicals, and every month felt like we were one overdue bill away from losing it all. I never asked her for anything unless it was absolutely necessary. I walked to school in torn-up Converse, keeping my head down so no one would notice me next to the kids in Ralph Lauren polos and Apple Watches. Still, I believed that if I worked hard enough, maybe I could change my future. That was before Lucas Bennett walked into my life. Lucas wasn't just some rich kid. He was Malibu royalty. His family owned rows of oceanfront homes, a private yacht dock, and a real estate empire that practically ran the town. He had sun-bleached blonde hair, a movie star smile, and a magnetic charm that made people orbit around him like planets around the sun. When we got paired up for a science project in 8th grade, I figured he'd ignore me. I was just some trailer park kid. He lived in a world I couldn't even begin to understand. But Lucas surprised me. He actually laughed at one of my dumb jokes about Mars, clapped me on the back, and said, "You're funny, Ethan." Just like that, I felt seen for the first time in a long time. Our project was to build a model of the solar system. I brought in cut-up cereal boxes and some leftover house paint from 3 years ago. Lucas showed up with imported foam planets, glow-in-the-dark paints, and a motorized stand that made the whole thing spin like it was NASA grade. I was embarrassed. I thought he'd mock my half-assed contribution. Instead, Lucas told me my wire orbit design was genius. He even said my sketch of Jupiter looked like a piece of art. To a 14-year-old kid starving for validation, that was everything. That was the moment I started to believe maybe I belonged in his world. Over the next 2 weeks, Lucas invited me to his beachfront mansion after school. His mom, Sophia Bennett, drove us around in a blinding white Range Rover that smelled like leather and Chanel perfume. I sat stiff in the seat, afraid I'd scuff something with my ragged shoes. Lucas didn't care. He talked nonstop about video games, blockbuster movies in his home theater, and summer trips to the Bahamas. His house looked like something out of a Netflix show. A glass spiral staircase, panoramic ocean views, and a bedroom bigger than my whole trailer, complete with a king-size bed, 4-monitor gaming setup, and shelves lined with unopened limited edition Lego sets. I sat in his gaming chair, feeling like I was on a spaceship, wondering how the hell I ended up there. After we finished the project, I thought our friendship would fade. But then Lucas invited me to his 15th birthday party at the mansion. I was so hyped I couldn't sleep all week. I kept picturing it, lights, music, maybe a shot at blending in with the rich crowd. But just before I could get too caught up in the fantasy, Lucas pulled me aside after class. He wouldn't look me in the eye. "Ethan, listen," he said, eyes fixed on the model car in his hands. "You can't let anyone know you're from the trailer park. You've got to pretend you're rich. Like us. My friends. They wouldn't get it. Just one night. Okay?" His words hit like a punch to the chest. I wanted to scream that I wasn't ashamed of where I came from. But I was 14, and the need to belong was stronger than pride. So I nodded, and I swallowed my voice. The next 2 weeks were hell. Lucas kept drilling me, told me I needed new clothes, that I had to talk about luxury brands, make up stories about family trips to Hawaii and a dad who drove a Tesla. My mom took on night shifts just to buy me an outfit from Target. Not Gucci like Lucas wanted, but at least it didn't scream trailer trash. At lunch, Lucas would quiz me. If someone asks, "You went to Hawaii, not the public beach, got it?" No one cool goes to a public beach. I practiced in the cracked mirror of our tiny bathroom, trying to nail the smug shrug, the casual smirk, pretending to be someone I wasn't. Then the night of the party came. Felt like stepping into a dream, or maybe a nightmare waiting to pounce. Lucas's mansion was lit up like a resort. Tiki torches lining the walkway, EDM blasting under the moonlight, waves crashing beyond the infinity pool. A guy in a white tux checked my name at the door like I was some VIP. Inside, everything sparkled, crystal chandeliers, polished marble floors, the scent of expensive cologne and fresh seafood in the air. I hadn't eaten dinner because I was too nervous. For the first hour, I believed I could pull it off. I laughed with Lucas's friends, recited the fake stories I'd memorized, said my dad was a real estate investor. A girl in a sequin dress complimented my shirt, asked if it was from some designer I'd never heard of. I mumbled something about my personal shopper picking it out. She nodded like I passed the test. Lucas watched me from across the room, gave me a thumbs up. And for one fleeting moment, I thought I made it. Then everything crumbled. Lucas stepped into the center of the game room, drink in hand, voice booming over the music. Hey, everybody! We've got a special guest tonight. The room quieted. Every eye turned to me. My chest tightened. My palms went cold. This is Ethan. He's worked so hard to fit in, Lucas said, grinning. But guess what? He doesn't belong here. Silence. Ethan lives in a trailer park. His mom scrubs floors to survive. He thought wearing Target was enough to fool us. Laughter exploded like a bomb. Phones came out. Cameras pointed at me. I stood there, frozen, as the world collapsed beneath my feet. You're a pretty good liar, Ethan, Lucas said, stepping closer. His voice full of fake sympathy, his eyes glittering with cruelty. But seriously, you thought you could be one of us? You're nothing but a dirt-poor loser trying to sneak into a world that'll never be yours. Go back to your trashy little trailer. The laughter got louder, sharper, like knives in my skin. I wanted to scream that he told me to lie, but nothing came out. I turned and ran through marble hallways, past tuxedoed waiters giving me sideways glances. I burst out onto the beach. The sand was cold under my shoes. I collapsed, face buried in my arms, tears flooding out before I could stop them. The waves roared, but I could still hear the laughter behind me. I had done everything he asked. I played the part. I sold the lie. And in the end, I was just the punchline. I hugged my knees. Sitting on the cold sand of Malibu Beach, the salty seawater soaking through my jeans, mingling with the tears streaming down my face. The sound of waves crashing against the shore seemed to offer comfort, but each crash only echoed the mocking laughter from the crowd inside Lucas Bennett's mansion. I had trusted him, believed he saw my worth beyond my poverty. But now I just wanted to vanish, to let the ocean sweep me away so I wouldn't have to face this humiliation. Suddenly, a gentle hand touched my shoulder. I looked up to see Mrs. Sophia Bennett, Lucas's mother, in her sea blue silk dress, kneeling on the sand without a care for staining her expensive outfit. Ethan, what happened? She asked. Her voice soft but laced with concern, her eyes gleaming with genuine care. Mr. James Bennett stood behind her, phone in hand, his expression stern as if ready to take action. I tried to say it was nothing, but my tears betrayed me. After a few minutes, I spilled everything, how Lucas forced me to pretend I was rich. The nights I practiced lying in front of the cracked mirror in our trailer's bathroom, and how he humiliated me in front of everyone, even letting his friends record it for social media. Mrs. Sophia's face paled, her hand covering her mouth in disbelief. Mr. James gripped his phone so tightly I thought it might crack. His jaw clenched until the muscles in his cheeks twitched. They exchanged a wordless glance, heavy with resolve, and then Mr. James stormed back into the house. His voice thundered. This party is over right now because of my son's unacceptable behavior. The kids scattered, confused, some casting curious or pitying glances my way. Mrs. Sophia stayed with me, publicly apologizing to the parents picking up their kids, explaining that Lucas had insulted me for being poor. Some parents smirked, dismissing it as kids being kids, but others approached me. A woman with a pearl necklace asked about my mom's job, offering to recommend her for an office position at her company. A man in a suit handed me his business card, saying my mom should call him about an opportunity at his real estate firm. Their unexpected kindness made me cry again, but this time because I felt seen, like I mattered. Lucas was summoned to a private room with his dad. I lingered outside the door, watching him bow his head, but when his parents weren't looking, he shot me a glare so icy it screamed this wasn't over. That night, my mom picked me up in our beat-up Toyota, its engine rattling like it might give out any second. I sat in the back, clutching the bag with my new clothes, staring at the streetlights flickering through the window. Rain began to fall, the streaks on the glass mirroring my tears. Mom didn't ask questions, just glanced at me in the rearview mirror, her eyes full of worry. Back at our trailer, I told her everything. She hugged me, the scent of frying oil and cheap convenience store perfume enveloping me. She said I could skip school on Monday if I needed to, but we both knew hiding wouldn't fix anything. Our trailer was so small I could hear the drip of the leaky kitchen faucet, the neighbor's TV blaring through thin walls, and Mom's sigh as she sank into the creaky old chair. Monday came, and school was hell. Lucas had spread a rumor that I'd tried to fake being rich and got caught stealing at the party. The video he posted on social media, titled "Trailer Kid Pretends to be Rich," went viral across the school. Every step I took down the hallway, I felt prying eyes and heard whispers behind my back. The seat next to me in class stayed empty even though the room was packed. During recess, my books were tossed to the floor, papers scattering across the hall amid snickers. My locker was defaced with "thief" scrawled in red spray paint, the acrid smell clinging to me every time I opened it. I reported it to a teacher, but she gave Lucas a half-hearted warning, like it was no big deal. The worst came on Friday after gym class. The locker room was nearly empty when Lucas cornered me, shoving me against the cold metal lockers, my back slamming hard. "You think snitching to my parents will end this?" he growled, his minty breath hot on my face. "I'll make you regret ever stepping foot in my house, Ethan. No one believes trash like you." I asked why he was doing this when he knew the truth. But Lucas just smirked, his eyes sharp as knives. "Because I can," he said, then walked away, leaving me trembling, my heart pounding, feeling like the whole world was against me. That night, I told Mom. Her voice shook with anger as she called Mrs. Sophia. Mrs. Sophia promised to handle it, and true to her word, Lucas vanished from school for a week. Rumors swirled that he'd been sent to boarding school or grounded heavily. Without him, the bullying stopped. A few kids even apologized, admitting they knew Lucas's story was a lie. I started to feel a flicker of relief, and Mia, a quiet girl from math class, began sitting with me at lunch. Mia never brought up the rumors, just shared her homemade cookies and chatted about homework. She wore thin framed glasses that slid down her nose, and every time she pushed them up, she'd smile softly, like she was saying everything would be okay. Her small acts of kindness were a light in the darkness, reminding me I wasn't entirely alone. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Sophia invited Mom and me to dinner at their mansion. In daylight, the house felt less intimidating but no less grand, with manicured flower beds and a sparkling fountain. Lucas wasn't there. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett explained they'd discovered Lucas had been bullying other poor kids for years, not just me. They decided to send him to a reform center in Nevada to learn responsibility and empathy. They also offered Mom a restaurant management job at Mr. James's company, with double her current pay and stable hours. For me, they provided a scholarship from their family foundation, promising to cover my college costs. Mom tried to decline, saying it was too much, but Mr. James insisted it wasn't charity. It was an opportunity we deserved for our hard work. Things started to change. We moved to a small but clean apartment near the beach, free from dripping faucets and the stench of nearby dumps. I got new clothes without holes. At school, I was invited to study groups, and Mia became my best friend. We did homework together, laughed over silly jokes, and for the first time I felt like I belonged. But then, a new shadow crept in. Dylan, Lucas's cousin, transferred to our school and joined his old crew. Anonymous texts started popping up on my phone. "You're just a beggar." Notes scrawled with "gold digger" were stuffed into my locker, the handwriting sharp and angry. I hid them from Mom, not wanting to worry her when life was finally looking up. But it escalated when my backpack vanished during gym, only to be found in the cafeteria trash, soaked in strawberry yogurt, my books and notes ruined. The sickly sweet smell clung to everything, a constant reminder of my humiliation. Mom found out and called Mrs. Sophia. They marched me to the principal, Mr. Warner, who brushed it off, saying I was overly sensitive due to my background. Mrs. Sophia coolly reminded him of her family's donation to the school's new computer lab, and his tune changed fast. He promised to investigate, and Dylan was suspended for a week. But I knew he wouldn't stop. One afternoon, after staying late for a science project, Dylan and 2 friends ambushed me on the beach. They shoved me into the water, Dylan's folding knife glinting in the sunset. "Lucas says hi," he whispered, his voice dripping with malice. "Think you can get away? You and your mom are just leeches, milking my family." I struggled to stand, the icy water soaking my clothes, but before Dylan could do more, a lifeguard shouted, calling the police on his radio. Dylan and his friends bolted but were caught at the parking lot. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett stepped in immediately. They contacted Dylan's family, ensuring he was sent to live with his dad in another state. They also beefed up security around our apartment and school, hiring a discreet bodyguard to watch from a distance. I started to feel safer, but fear lingered like a shadow. Lucas was still at the reform center, but I couldn't shake the feeling he was plotting something from afar. Every odd noise in our new apartment, every anonymous text, made me jump. Still, life went on. I threw myself into school, got into advanced classes, and dared to dream of UCLA, a dream I'd never thought possible before. One evening, as Mom and I dined at the Bennett's mansion, Mrs. Sophia got a call. Her face drained of color, her hand clutching her wine glass so tightly I thought it would shatter. Mr. James stood, his voice trembling. "What's wrong, Sophia?" She looked at us, eyes red and teary, and said, "Lucas escaped from the reform center. But that's not all. He hacked our bank accounts and stole a huge sum of money." My blood ran cold. Lucas hadn't just fled, he'd been scheming for months, and according to Mrs. Sophia, he left a message on the center server. "Ethan and his family will pay for ruining my life." Those words stabbed my heart like a knife. Lucas wasn't just after me, he was targeting my mom, the Bennetts, anyone who'd sided with me. The outrage hits hard. Lucas isn't just a bully, he's a calculating threat, willing to bankrupt his own family to settle a score with a poor kid. It's infuriating, sparking questions about whether someone like him can ever change, or if his wealth and privilege have twisted him beyond redemption. Should I, Ethan, forgive him? Or live in fear forever? The anger peaks as you realize Lucas isn't just hurting me, he's betraying the family that tried to save him. Mrs. Sophia tried to stay calm, explaining they'd contacted the police and a cybersecurity firm to track Lucas. Mr. James turned to us, his voice firm. "Ethan, Karen, we won't let Lucas hurt you. Your family now." They installed cameras around our apartment and hired more security. But fear clung to me like damp clothes. Every night, I checked the windows and doors, terrified Lucas would appear, his knife gleaming under the moonlight. Mom hid her worry, but I caught her staying up late, staring at her phone, bracing for bad news. The weeks that followed were a blur of paranoia and vigilance. I couldn't walk to school without scanning for unfamiliar faces. Mia noticed my jumpiness and started walking with me, her presence a quiet comfort. But the fear was relentless, gnawing at me. What was Lucas planning? Was he watching us, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? The police had leads, but Lucas was slippery, using the stolen money to cover his tracks. Every news update about a sighting in San Diego, then Phoenix, tightened the knot in my stomach. Then, one night, as I sat doing homework, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You can't hide forever, trailer trash." My hands shook as I showed it to Mom. She called the Bennetts, who alerted the police. They traced the message to a burner phone, but it was a dead end. "Mrs. Sophia's voice cracked as she apologized over the phone, promising they'd find him. But I could hear the strain in her words, the weight of a mother grappling with her son's descent into darkness. The fear was like a shadow I couldn't shake, trailing me through every moment of my day. I'd wake up in our new apartment, the ocean breeze drifting through the window, and for a split second, I'd feel safe until I remembered Lucas was out there, somewhere, plotting. His message, "Ethan and his family will pay," echoed in my mind, a constant reminder that his hatred hadn't faded. I stopped sleeping properly, jerking awake at every creak of the floorboards, every hum of the fridge. Mom tried to keep things normal, cooking my favorite spaghetti and cracking jokes about my messy handwriting, but her eyes betrayed her. They were tired, shadowed, scanning the room like she expected Lucas to burst through the door. School became a battlefield of nerves. I'd flinch at the slam of a locker, my heart racing until I confirmed it wasn't Dylan or one of Lucas's old friends. Mia stuck by me, her quiet strength a lifeline. She'd slip me notes in class with silly doodles, a stick figure Ethan surfing, or a cartoon Lucas with devil horns making me laugh despite everything. "He's just a jerk with too much money," she'd say, pushing her glasses up her nose. "Don't let him win." Her words helped, but they couldn't erase the dread that Lucas's escape had planted in me. The Bennetts were relentless in their support. Mr. James hired a private investigator to work alongside the police, and Mrs. Sophia called daily to check on us. They invited us to their mansion for weekend barbecues, trying to create moments of normalcy. But even there, surrounded by their sprawling gardens and the sound of waves, I couldn't relax. I'd catch Mrs. Sophia staring at a photo of Lucas on the mantel, a younger, smiling Lucas, before the coldness took over and her eyes would glisten with unshed tears. I wanted to hate Lucas, to curse him for everything, but seeing her pain made it complicated. He was her son, and she still loved him even after all he'd done. One afternoon, as Mia and I studied at the library, my phone buzzed with another anonymous text, "Look behind you." My blood froze. I whipped around, expecting to see Lucas's smirk, but there was only a group of freshmen giggling over a laptop. Mia grabbed my hand, her voice steady. "It's just a prank, Ethan. He's not here." But I wasn't so sure. The texts were getting bolder, more specific. Last week, one mentioned the blue hoodie I'd worn to school. Another described the route I took home. Someone was watching me and the police couldn't pin it on Lucas without proof. That night, I broke down and told Mom I was scared, not just for me, but for her. She hugged me tightly, her voice fierce. "We've been through worse, Ethan. We're not letting some spoiled brat ruin our lives." She called Mr. James, who arranged for a security system upgrade and a patrol car to pass our apartment nightly. But even with the cameras and alarms, I felt exposed. Like Lucas's eyes were everywhere. I stopped posting on social media, afraid he'd use it to track me. I even avoided the beach, my one escape, because the open sand felt too vulnerable. Then came the second twist, a blow that hit harder than Lucas's escape. One evening, as we sat at the Bennett's dining table, their lawyer, Mr. Caldwell, arrived unannounced. His face was grim, a manila folder clutched in his hand. "We need to talk," he said, glancing at me and Mom. Mrs. Sophia's hands trembled as she poured coffee and Mr. James's knuckles whitened around his glass. "Mr. Caldwell opened the folder, revealing bank statements and emails. "Lucas didn't just steal from your accounts," he said. "He's been working with someone inside your company, someone who helped him siphon funds and cover his tracks." My stomach dropped. "An insider? Someone we trusted?" Mr. Caldwell slid a photo across the table. It was Mr. Warner, our school principal, smiling at a company gala. "Warner's been feeding Lucas information," he said. "He's the one who gave Lucas access to Ethan's school records, your home address, even your daily routines." The room spun. Mr. Warner, the man who'd dismissed my complaints as oversensitivity, had been Lucas's ally all along. He'd known about the bullying, the locker vandalism, the yogurt-soaked backpack, and done nothing because he was profiting from it. Lucas had paid him off with stolen money to keep the pressure on me, to make sure I never felt safe. The betrayal was a gut punch. I trusted Mr. Warner to protect me, to be the adult who'd make things right. Instead, he'd sold me out for cash, enabling Lucas's vendetta. The outrage burned hot. A grown man, a school principal, conspiring with a teenager to torment a poor kid and his mom. It was sickening, sparking fury at the injustice. How could someone in charge of kids stoop so low? How many other students had he failed? The revelation was a spark in a powder keg, making you want to scream at the corruption, the betrayal, the sheer unfairness of it all. Mrs. Sophia gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks. "How could he do this to us? To Ethan?" Mr. James slammed his fist on the table, rattling the silverware. "That bastard's finished," he growled. "I'll make sure he never works again." Mom gripped my hand, her face a mix of anger and fear. "What does this mean for us?" she asked. Mr. Caldwell explained that Warner had been arrested, caught transferring funds to an offshore account. The police were interrogating him, hoping he'd lead them to Lucas. But Lucas was still out there, a ghost with a grudge. And now we knew he had resources we hadn't imagined. The news spread like wildfire. By morning, Mr. Warner's arrest was all over local news, his mugshot plastered on every screen. Parents flooded the school board with complaints, demanding answers. Students whispered in the halls, some shocked, others saying they'd always suspected Warner was shady. Mia was furious. Her usual calm replaced by a fire I'd never seen. "He let Lucas ruin your life for money," she spat, crumpling her notebook. "That's disgusting." Her anger mirrored mine, but it also fueled me. If Warner could be caught, maybe Lucas could too. Maybe we could end this. But Lucas wasn't done. A week later, I found a package on our apartment doorstep. No return address. Inside was a USB drive and a note in jagged handwriting. "Watch this, Ethan. You'll wish you'd stayed quiet." My hands shook as I plugged the drive into my laptop. Mom and Mia hovering behind me. The screen flickered and a grainy video played. It was Lucas, his face gaunt, his eyes wild, sitting in a dimly lit room. "You thought you could take everything from me, Ethan?" he sneered. "You and my parents acting like I'm the villain. But you're the leech living off my family's money. This isn't over." The video cut to footage of me walking to school, laughing with Mia. Even sitting in our apartment, filmed through a window. He'd been stalking us, or someone had, and the violation made my skin crawl. Mom yanked the laptop shut, her face ashen. "We're calling the police. Now." The cops took the drive, but the damage was done. I couldn't unsee Lucas's face, his voice dripping with hate. The footage of our apartment felt like a theft of our safety, proof that Lucas could reach us anywhere. The outrage boiled over. A rich kid, given every chance, choosing to terrorize us with stolen money and a corrupt ally. It wasn't just personal, it was a glaring injustice, a system that let wealth and privilege weaponize cruelty against those with nothing. The Bennetts doubled down on security, moving us to a safe house on the outskirts of Malibu, a small cabin hidden among pines. It was quiet, almost peaceful. But I felt like a fugitive in my own life. Mia visited when she could, bringing homework and her infectious optimism, but even she couldn't lift the weight. The police tracked the USB to a motel in Reno, but Lucas was gone by the time they arrived. He was always one step ahead, a phantom fueled by rage and resources. Every lead dried up, every sighting a false alarm. I started to wonder if we'd ever be free of him. Then, one night, as I lay awake in the safe house, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen, but something made me answer. Lucas's voice crackled through, low and venomous. "You're hiding now, huh, Ethan? Think that'll save you? I know where you are. I always will." Before I could respond, he hung up. I froze, my heart hammering. How did he know? Was he bluffing, or was he really out there, watching? I woke Mom, who called the Bennetts and the police. They swept the area, found nothing, but the call was traced to a payphone in Los Angeles, just an hour away. The fear was suffocating, but it was the betrayal that cut deepest. Lucas had everything, money, a loving family, a future handed to him, yet he chose this path, dragging us all into his darkness. The Bennetts were shattered, their wealth and influence powerless against their son's hatred. Mrs. Sophia clung to hope, saying Lucas could still change, but Mr. James was colder, calling him lost. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, pity, or just exhaustion. All I knew was that Lucas had stolen my peace, my sense of safety, and I hated him for it. Months passed, and the police finally caught Lucas in a sting operation in San Francisco. He'd been living under a fake name, using the stolen money to fund a network of hackers and informants, all to keep tabs on me. At his trial, he sat stone-faced, refusing to look at his parents or me. The judge sentenced him to a juvenile facility until he was 21 with mandatory therapy. The courtroom was silent as he was led away, his mother's sobs the only sound. I wanted to feel relief, but all I felt was emptiness. Lucas was gone, but the scars he'd left weren't. The Bennetts rebuilt their lives and ours. They funded a community center in Malibu for kids like me, a place where no one would be judged for their background. Mom thrived in her new job, her smile brighter than I'd ever seen. I graduated high school, got into UCLA on a full scholarship, and walked across the stage with Mia cheering louder than anyone. The Bennetts were there too, their pride like a second family's. But every milestone was tinged with the memory of Lucas, a reminder of what hate can do. This story taught me that your worth isn't in what you own, but in how you rise after falling. Lucas had everything but chose to destroy. I had nothing but found strength in kindness, Mom's, Mia's, the Bennetts. If life pulls you into darkness, seek those who will light your way. Never let anyone make you feel unworthy. Stand up, keep going, and build your own future, no matter who tries to tear it down.